Good evening, everyone, to the October 21st, 2025 council meeting. As a reminder, this meeting is live streamed and it is recorded and available on the internet by visiting the Town of Parry Sound website at www.parrysound.ca. Prior to the open session, we met for a closed meeting. It was moved by Councilor Borneman, seconded by Councilor McCann, pursuant to section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 is amended. Council Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound moved to a special meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. One was applicants to a committee. Second was Carbon Integrity Commissioner report. C, proposed pending acquisition or disposition of land for municipal or local board purposes. Proposed disposition of land. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. 1, enforcement update. 2, termination of a contract. 3, litigation with Parry Sound Cruise Lines. And that meeting was held. I'd like to acknowledge at this time that we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robbins-Huron Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. And at this time, is there any prioritization or additions to the agenda? Not seeing any, may I have a vote?
Excuse me, Member Darby, there is the addition of a request for municipal support regarding school completion time. So there was a resolution. Also received today by email.
Okay, very good. All right, then I need to move for seconder, Councilor McCann, Councilor Keith, that council agenda for October 21st, 2025 be approved as amended. Favorably? That's carried. Any disclosure, pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Move seconder for the minutes. Councilor Borneman, Councilor McDonald, with the minutes of the regular council meeting held October 7th, 2025 be approved as circulated. Any discussion or comment on those? Favor them? That's carried. Thank you. Questions of staff? Councilor McCann, then Councilor Bourne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This would be Mr. Kearns. I want to just get an update on construction at the mall entrance on Joseph Street. It's been work going on for about a week or so. Perhaps I'm sure people are wondering what's going on.
Certainly, through your worship. Excuse me. The project is a replacement of cross culvert for our stormwater conveyance system. The staff have been monitoring that culvert, had a really good look at it. Obviously, it had shown signs of failure, so it was put out for contract this year for replacement, and the contractor is actually on schedule. It is a bit of a deep installation. It's a very challenging location from a traffic perspective. We made some adjustments, obviously, with the traffic control right out to the intersection at Mall Drive. But it is progressing well, and they will be switching over once they have to finish half of it, so that we keep traffic flow going. So that's why it's a bit of an extended time.
So as a follow-up, then, do we have an idea as to when to expect the construction to be completed? I'm going to be putting on the spot here.
Through your worship, that's always a bit of a guess. We anticipate them being done in the next couple of weeks. In the absence of any unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Borneman.
Well, I'm not gonna be as specific as Councilor McCann was, Mr. Kearns. I can just ask for an update in general with all the works that are being undertaken currently, when people can expect to start things to tighten up for the winter. And I asked that you make comment, you told me that we were doing something different with the sidewalk rehabilitation. Make a comment in that regard, I appreciate it.
Certainly, I'll start with the sidewalk replacements. So obviously, there's been, this is part of our annual sidewalk replacement program, various locations throughout town, including Market Square Park. Most prominently there on Bowman Street, replacing some sections that were deemed to be non-functional any longer along Bow Street. So staff have been working with the contractor to try and utilize saw cut joints versus expansion joints. So typically, we always call it tar paper. You would often see within the sidewalks an expansion joint or flexible material placed in between the sections. Those tend to be the worst offenders in terms of rough ride if you happen to be in a mobility device. So there's a different way of doing it with saw cuts to allow instead of the expansion, you do get cracking, but control cracking in sidewalk sections. Should facilitate a smoother ride overall. So we are making some attempts to try and rectify some of the challenges in the Ontario Provincial Standard for sidewalk design, using the tools that are available. So all of these construction projects are on the wind down towards winter, maybe the wind up towards winter. In terms of buttoning everything, the sidewalks are some smaller sections, so they're not as necessarily long. They are able to tighten those up very quickly should the weather take a turn. Everybody is monitoring the weather forecast. So far, it's still conducive to the work that we're doing. The work on Champagne, Parry Sound Road, Great Martin Road is on schedule. As we had, it should be open by the end of. So again, we've explained before, the bedrock over there was a bit challenging along with the infrastructure installation, gas lines and those sorts of things. In addition to some drawings that weren't as accurate historically as we hope we are going forward. So there was a contractor on site at Isabella and Wood today. We're working towards getting that water main commissioned and everybody reconnected to permanent water, so they'll be off the temporary water system that's in there. The sanitary service line will be connected and buried. I had a conversation with Enbridge Gas because they have the same concerns. So their utilities will also be buried for the winter as well, with a traveling service that we can maintain for winter over there. Same on Glen and Victoria. They've done curves into Glen Avenue. They will be wrapping up construction very shortly here with a service code on Schultz. Victoria. To button that up for the winter and blend it into Glen, we'll be back next spring to finish up. Given the time of year we're at right now. So everybody's working right now to make sure all the utilities are back in place and functional for winter season. If there's anything that I missed, please feel free to ask.
Any other questions? Councilman Dahl?
Thank you, Worship. I'll circle back again. I asked this a couple weeks ago. Can we get an update maybe perhaps on the status from Mr. Kearns, status of the sound system for the VOCC? That has made any progress since last time?
So through your worship, I don't have an update on delivery, but I can certainly look into that. It was awarded after the last council meeting, so the vendor would have been informed and proceeded, but I don't have that information with me, but I can certainly follow up.
Any further questions? Nope. Okay, so response, Mr. Johnson.
Through you, Mayor Darby, we have 3 items of correspondence. The first is from Susan Rutledge with a request for a pedestrian crosswalk at Gibson and Seaman Streets. And Ms. Rutledge identifies regular crossing at this location and believes the pedestrian crosswalk would make it safer. The next item is from the Minister of Transportation, Pravmeet Singh Sarkaria. It is identifying that the government's intention is to introduce legislation that, if passed, will repeal the municipality's authority to operate speed cameras. And so this letter was asking for some information. That information has been provided as of their deadline by last Friday by the Public Works Director. It also identifies that there will be signage installed by November 14th. And that there should be some provincial funding to support traffic calming measures. And the last item of correspondence is from Parents for Parry Sound, Vicky Christie, Shane Reynolds, and Amy Black, representing Parents for Parry Sound, asking for additional support from the municipality, and this was sent to the every municipalities in the Parry Sound district, looking for municipal support for a response from the Minister of Education, Paul Calandra, with respect to the investigation of the York District School Board. And as identified earlier, there's an item on the agenda this evening with respect to that.
Thank you. There's no deputations tonight, so it's reports, and we'll start with Councilor Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, staff, and the public. I have only two things to report. One is one that I feel is really, really positive, and I'm lovely surprised, is that Frank Richmond who was a former educator and loved the Parry Sound area, provided in his estate $100,000 donation to the Northeast region of the OPP Youth Foundation. There is a photo of such on the Northeast region OPP Facebook. I just think that is such a wonderful, kind thing that somebody would do for care. And I don't think there's any more that I can say about that, except that is just fabulous. Number two would be that I did attend last night the asset management survey results, and I'm sure some of the others on council and the mayor will more details, but the bottom line is it certainly is appreciated that those people that participated in the survey, that is going to really be able to help us to determine what are priorities in the future. And that is really so important for our community, because we know wishing and wanting are two different things, and we all have to be realistic. So that survey is really helpful to us, and I feel it's a little sad that there was such a small turnout. But on the positive again, all the information will be on the town website so that people can look at it and can more easily digest it and have a better idea of why town will be going in a direction that they will in the next few years. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. A short report for myself as well. We had a meeting for the Tamarack Notes Center that I attended, and one of the interesting things is a little bit later that week, a ratepayer contacted me and said, "What's going on with that pool? It doesn't seem like anything's going on. The building's just been looking like the same as it has been for the last month or so," which I kind of learned over the last while that the things that go underground tend to take the longest and take the most amount of work. So at that meeting, they had given us the update, so I was able to reply to that right there. Pretty quickly that the amount of piping and underground structure and cement and whatnot that's going in has been significant. That you don't see it, but it's all the work that's getting done that's behind the scenes. And there's a pad already for the pool. I still cannot wait until hope we get the word of the day that pool comes down the highway. So I cannot wait to see how many pieces it's coming in, how it's gonna get here, and what it's gonna look like. So That'll be really exciting. And then, also, as Councilor Keith mentioned, yesterday, the asset management, plan open house was a wonderful experience. A great time to sit out there and, there was quite a few laughs and good spirits. So we have a lot of challenges, ahead, but we got a lot of opportunities too. So it's nice to kind of see the town, moving in such a great direction. And I did want to mention too, there was, I think, 8 or 9 door prizes that night. So I contacted one of the ratepayers to needed a hand, his door, or he won a door prize, needed a hand get picked up and dropped off this place. And the first thing he said to me is, how did I get entered into this? I said, well, you filled out that survey for the one, for the asset management plan. He was kind of excited that something he did for his community kind of resulted in someone paying attention and getting. So thank you very much, everybody.
Councilor Valesky.
Thank you, your worship. I had a very quiet 2 weeks. I have nothing to report at all.
Councilor McCann.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, staff, and public. Just one meeting to report on. Wednesday morning, the 8th of October, I attended the Parry Sound Public Library monthly board meeting in person. Approving our 2026 budget was one of the main items on the agenda. We accepted the resignation of one of our board members, Jonathan Baxter, who represented the town of Parry Sound, and welcomed his replacement, Sharon Rainey. We received the treasurer's report for the month of August. There was some brief discussion moving forward, our building asset, on our building assessment and asset management plans. The board is looking to install a gate at the top of the stairs that lead down to the bottom floor fire escape. That's an exit from the library's auditorium. That area has been problematic with risk, safety, security concerns with a lot of unwanted behavior. So in the stairwell, so the gate is something that will only be able to be opened from the inside in the event of an emergency. And the board's been entertaining both from a local business for this particular gate. They're needing more information on its structure. And so we're just waiting on more feedback from the vendor before that gate is in place. And just a reminder, there's always lots of programs going on. There is for fall and winter. There is to be a chess club, art journaling, yoga, book club, knit and stitch group. There's a special workshop on scams and frauds presentation with Ontario Securities Commission. And look for that. And this Saturday afternoon, 25th from 3 to 5, the library is associated with the Haunted House. Remember to check our library website for information on the programs and everything that the library has to offer. It's quite a bit. We're on Facebook, and the website, of course, is parrysoundlibrary.com. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councilor Gorman.
Thank you, your worship. On the 14th, I attended a meeting of the airport commission. For the third quarter financials that Mr. Harris, I think he'll verify that the numbers are really encouraging. The low and wage higher budget amounts for 2025. They're higher than fuel sales, restaurant sales, tie downs across the board. The airport's had a great year, and I expect that this will continue as a result of the expansion project. As Councilor Keith mentioned, we attended the asset management plan last night. It's fortunate that they got trumped by the Blue Jays, but I think people across the country would say that it was for the greater good. Last thing I think that I need to advise council and the public on is that the board of health here made a painful decision at our last meeting and determined that we were replacing our latest recruit as administrator during the probationary period. There were concerns, that, maybe things weren't, going in the direction that, we had hoped. I do think, council, people in the community and families of our residents would take, great confidence in the fact that, a well-known figure in the area, Deborah Randall Wood, has assumed the interim administrator's position, allowing the board, opportunity to continue to search for a better fit to run Belvedere Heights. Well, before I finish, drivers, witches walk Friday night and the following, or Saturday rather, and the following Friday is Halloween, so slow down and try to avoid those hobgoblins. Thank you.
Councilor Donald.
Thank you, Worship, fellow councilors, staff and public. I'll be brief. On Thursday, October the 16th, I attended the Regional Tourism Summit at the Parry KOA, hosted by for the Great Canadian Wilderness Camping in Ontario. Brought together tourism leaders, campground operators, and creative professionals to explore how nature, technology, and storytelling can drive growth in rural tourism. They featured insightful sessions on AI's impact on the travel economy, visual storytelling, technology, and outdoor hospitality, and how to turn natural assets like dark skies into market-ready experiences. Inspiring speakers, engaging discussions, and delicious lunch by Bubba's Shady Barbecue and Chelsea Buns by Buns on Bay. The event truly showcased the importance of collaboration and innovation in strengthening Northern Ontario's rural tourism. The next step will be in November when product development workshops begin taking place here in the Parry Sound area. So stay tuned as we continue to make Parry Sound premium tourism destination. And on Saturday, the 25th of October, we do have the Witches Walk coming up starting at 5 p.m. So I encourage everyone to get out and enjoy that. That is the end of my report.
Thank you. Council staff and public, October 8th, as mentioned, was the Recreation Center Municipal Services Board meeting, which is now the Tamarack North Recreation Center. And we have an agreement with the YMCA. And the former Y property is now in the hands of the Municipal Services Board. And there is a lot more happening in the building. I noticed there's glass in today in the front. It was a lot of the cement pouring, a couple of weeks ago. And they are getting ready for the stainless steel pool to come in. So it's really beginning to shape up. There's a lot of interior walls going up inside too. So it's things that people don't see from the road sort of thing. And of course, they're not supposed to be in there anyway. So but it is moving along on time, on budget, so which is good. October 9th was the Parry Sound District Social Services Board meeting, and council should have received their updates. October 20th, the CAO, Mr. Harris, and I met with Chief Dwalnog of Wisconsin and their CEO, Mr. Good. Then October 20th at 6:30, I had a couple of nonprofit AGM and board meetings. October 21st, I met with the students from grades 4, which is today, grades 4, 5, and 6 at St. Peter's School. Always interesting good thoughts and questions from those students. I like to think we had a good time today. They were very engaged, which was absolutely super. Yes, as Councilor Keith mentioned and others mentioned, the asset management plan meeting. I appreciate those that certainly filled out the asset management plan survey. And it's important to understand that this is a mandated procedure by the province, but essential for the future planning of the municipality. When you look at the long range sort of perspective for the municipality and how you acquire grants and the reason behind getting those grants, the asset management plan certainly help in the future of planning and showing that there is need in those particular areas. So it's it's vital to, I think, our future viability, not only for planning, but for getting grants as well. Certainly thank you to those that came out to the Stockton Center, for that meeting. Unfortunately, I had 3 other meetings that afternoon and night, so it was impossible for me to be in different places at once, so, but thank you to those that did attend, and I think there was Councillor Keith and Councillor Ashford and Councillor Boardman there, so thank you for doing that. That is my report, and we'll go on with the meeting. So moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman, that Council of the Town of Parry Sound hereby appoints Stephanie Weeks to the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame Induction Committee for a term expiring on November 14th, 2026. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Borneman.
I was gonna ask that the other people who applied for that position be thanked for their interest. I think their role would be in both make good candidates.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Good. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor McDonald, council received the October 21st, 2025 update on the sump pump redirection program for information purposes. Ready? Staff member that wants to give a little bit of an update on that, Mr. Curtis?
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. This was just to give the council an update, obviously on the sump pump redirection program in the area of Pump Station 11 and Beaver Meadow Street. So, I'll just give the highlights. So 26 owners were contacted. 15 were determined not to, no inappropriate connection to the sanitary system, so their connections were okay. This number has changed by +1, so there's actually 6 that have now had confirmed sump pump connections to the sanitary. That was the goal of this project, is to identify and remove those extraneous flows from our sanitary system. So, anyway, those 2 numbers have switched, so 6 and 5, 5 and 6 have become 6 and 5. So, we are progressing. We're actually having very good cooperation with the folks, and they're having a good amount of luck with obtaining help as necessary, whether it be from a plumber or contractor, those sorts of things. I think in a lot of cases, this might seem like a daunting task to a homeowner, but it's really not. In a lot of cases, not that big a deal to actually have it. It is hugely beneficial. We've done calculations on average sump pump flows that it doesn't take a house or two to equal many connected inappropriately with the sump pump to allow for residential development of a number of residential units in comparison. So directing that water where it's appropriate is very important for us. We are the city, and we'll be looking forward to expanding the program throughout. We'll certainly look at where else in town that makes the most sense, and this is the good way for us to retreat or to have a lot of return.
Good. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman, that council authorizes the pre-budget expenditure of $202,637.50 exclusive of taxes to be funded through the wastewater stabilization reserve using the canoe procurement program contract 120721-EVS to support ongoing efforts to locate and remediate excessive inflow and infiltration in the municipal sanitary collection system. Mr. Curran.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, we've been discussing this particular piece of equipment that quite some time internally. It not only has benefits from a sanitary sewer perspective and further removing those extraneous flows from our sanitary, but also will allow us to have a much better understanding of the condition of our storm sewer system. Municipally, 3 underground infrastructure systems exist. There's storm and sanitary. That Councilor Ashford alluded to his report. The buried infrastructure is not often thought of until it doesn't work. So it's very important to understand the condition that it's in. That goes to the asset management planning as well. And municipally, it's kind of an inside joke amongst municipal public works folks that the storm sewers of the Oregon systems have buried infrastructure because they were installed, they move water. Nobody thinks too much about it. It doesn't impact your ability to turn on your tap or flush your toilet, generally speaking. So in a lot of cases, municipalities haven't paid a lot of attention to those pipes that have been in the ground for upwards of 100 years in some cases. So similar to the pipe we were talking about up by Joseph Street, that buried galvanized steel reacts quite differently depending on the soil that it's in, depending on the geology that it's in, the depth of burial, the amount of oxygen, all of those things contribute to the longevity of the pipe. So the inflow, we know we have some issues. We have devices deployed out throughout our sanitary collection system to monitor flows. We know we see high flows in wet weather, which is obviously indicative of stormwater making its way into our sanitary system. Problem is we can't tell exactly where it is. Staff had the intention to deploy this camera in particular during wet weather events. We don't have to wait for a contractor, which was never plausible. If we called somebody out of barrier training there, by the time they mobilize, they'd be 3 or 4 hours away in a rain event. It's potentially over when we lost the opportunity. So the reason we're coming early to council for this is to not miss another wet fall season and spring. So the opportunity to gather more data expediently will help us identify. If I refer to it as a mock-on, at some point, there's going to be a couple of pipes that are substantially allowing groundwater to flow into our sanitary system, given the amount of flow that we see here and how we're trapped. So it's not just beneficial to one system, but multiple systems. There are.
This sounds like perhaps one of the coolest items that we could purchase. Could you kind of describe like what exactly, it's got tracker in the title, so it's gonna be good, but like, how exactly does this thing work? Does it drive on its own? Do you have to pull it? Can we tell where pipes are? Sometimes I think when we're saying, oh, the pipe wasn't where we thought it was, is this something we can put in there and then go above with, what exactly are we getting here and what's it kind of look like?
Thank you, through your worship. So kind of all of those things. It comes with multiple setups for drive wheels. So depending on the size of the pipe. We do possess a push camera right now, which has limitations. It can only be pushed so far up. When you get into a larger diameter pipe, the cable that's used to push it tends to pull the camera won't advance. Plus, if the head gets submerged in the water, you can't really see the condition of the pipe. So this has a pan tilt zoom head on it so that depending on the size of the pipe, you can change the wheel configuration so it does drive itself. So you can raise it up more if the site's larger or if it's having a water volume. You turn the head to view and cracks and that sort of thing in the pipe. You can measure, it will give you a linear measurement as to how far it is in the pipe. So it allows us to do all of those things.
I'll like put a follow up. Well, what happens if this guy gets stuck in the pipe? Is that sounds like something that would happen to me if I was scoping a pipe, but I don't know what happens too regularly in the larger pipes.
So thank you, your worship. Fortunately, it doesn't happen all that often. It can happen and it can resolve for the day. I've been involved with these things for every few years now, and anytime we've had them deployed, we've had to go to that extent to get them.
Good. Good, Councilor Blossom.
Thank you, your worship. Just a couple of questions. This is driven by the water from the sewer flusher, or is it, how is it driven?
Through your worship, it's self-propelled. So no, it is not, it's a self-propelled, self-contained unit that's deployed into the pipe.
Okay, and, so there's just a cable on the back of it, you can bring it back, or measure how far down the pipe it is, so on location. There's not a GPS on it that you can.
So unfortunately, they haven't figured out how to get the GPS, they know because it's blower. So it's often encased in pipes that don't allow for signals. So.
Sorry, we had one that you could go above it with a wand, know exactly where it was. This one has to go up that.
You can, depending on the material that the pipe is made of.
Sure.
So there are limitations depending on what material the cameras are in.
Yeah, thank you, one more, the program for purchasing it. Joe Johnson Equipment's a fantastic company, I bought, you can go stuff off it, but. How does this work, this you look at other places first, then come back with a recommendation to the town or?
So the canoe program, Sarah Canoe came and made the presentation to council. So they put out an RFP, basically a request for proposals from companies with some criteria associated with them. They received back. They have a panel of purchasing experts do an analysis of all of those submissions. And they become qualified through that program. Should they meet all the criteria, they become qualified and recommended for approval for the canoe purchasing program.
Then you want, so canoe virtually does the. Adjustment for us or the criteria fitting for us, and we don't, they come back and say, here's the lowest price or the best price, the. Best
Or perhaps more accurately, here are the options that are available to you that have been vetted through this process.
So it's a fair, open process.
Absolutely, and I'd encourage anyone to go on, all of the documentation is on their website. They'll show you which vendors, which products, and there's a huge array of them. This is just one of in the sewer component. You can look at the scoring of each individual submission and it's all there for digestion.
Well, thank you, you know my feeling on sole sourcing, so. Thank you, that's it, thank you.
That's the nice part of this, it's not sole source. You're getting a wide range of bids and that sort of thing, and it's run through a. Yeah. Councilor Key.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions. One is I heard tonight that if this was approved, I understand that you'd like to have this camera for the fall season. So what sort of timeline are you looking at if this is approved tonight?
We would call tomorrow. And they will be in stock or a week out.
Okay, that's one question. How about the warranty? So the warranty is there on this? Thank you.
So it has a standard 12-month warranty on this.
Well, this all this up, so this had a 12-month warranty, and there's a problem on the 13th month. Where did we get this fixed? I'm looking at reliability, quick service, etc.
Certainly through your worship, and actually I think Leslie alluded to the fact that Joe Johnson as a vendor is very well known. They've actually done the truck as well. We've never had an issue with receiving service and fair service. Same, even if you're outside of warranty, depending on the issue, this particular vendor as well, I think if it's an obvious manufacturing defect, we're not. I think where they get nervous is when it's operator abuse and that sort of thing, if they can refer back to that, they would perhaps get a little stickier on their warranty times, but from a service perspective, Joe Johnson, you can bear it.
Therefore, my follow-up to that is, does that mean that some of our employees are trained on how to operate this equipment? Or does that company come and show people how to operate it, so we don't have those kind of problems?
Through your worship, they will come and train, just as they've done with our back truck and the new purchases of nozzles and sorts of things, so. They've been very good with, providing us with that services.
Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Blasky and seconded by Councilor Keith, that council authorizes free budget expenditure of up to $284,500 plus applicable taxes for Tatham Engineering to begin the engineering design work to replace sewage pumping station number 11, and that the expenditure be funded through the wastewater stabilization reserve. Mr. Kernan.
Thank you, your worship. So there's a bit of a theme to the last three items, so they're all, in one way or another related to the south end catchment area from a sanitary collection perspective. We know we have challenges at SPS 11, so sewage pumping station 11, and have for a number of years. So our plan, while we're doing all of this other work to remove extraneous flows, is to have the engineering design work done to facilitate construction. Ideally, there will be a grant program available that we'll be ready to apply for. And particularly in relation to housing development and whether it's commercial or industrial as well. But that is one of our most challenging areas in our sewage collection areas, area around SPS. So this the data we'll be gathering from the previous two items will be feeding into some of the design work that will go into SPS as we go forward.
Thank you. Ashford, Blasky, and Warren.
I was just wondering, we do the design work now and, you know, things can change and all that kind of stuff. Is this a situation where like should we, like, is this a stable, like we do this design work, is the area stable, or if somebody comes with a, you know, proposal like a different, housing density or something, that then we've done work that would be, not as helpful to us as if we had waited until, kind of at that minute. Or is it, sorry.
Through your worship, so those are discussions that we've had. There is a limited development area available in that catchment area. You know, we're in touch obviously in speed planning and development. On an ongoing basis, we collaborate, so we have a good idea of currently what's being looked at, what's being considered, but those will all be part of the design process. We're not going to look at it and say this is all we have on the table, this is all design for. Started to have those conversations about you know, what makes sense. It'll depend. This design work will include a force main all the way to the sewage treatment plant as well. So that'll be a discussion as when we get into the design details, whether we twin the force main so that we can use part of it in capacity now. Design details that we are considering right now.
Councilor Blasky.
Thank you, your worship. We've, this last couple of items have spent a whole lot of money. I think we should just make note that this isn't tacked onto the tax money for the year. This comes out of our sewage money that's collected for your sewer, that you paid for your sewer and water. So it's not that it's going on in taxpayer dollars now. I know it says it in the proposal, but it does, some people wouldn't understand it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Councilor Barnman.
So two things, somebody would look at this and say, well, can't we just put bigger sand and throw more water through the pipe? And secondly, after you've explained that, Mr. Kearns, Tatham's done a lot of work for us over the past number of years. The obvious question is, do you still have confidence in the work they're doing? Are they providing good value for the money that we're rolling out for for these jobs that they're undertaking?
Through your worship, the short answer is yes. We've had really good discussions, collaborative discussions with staff as well. And looking at our modeling results and those sorts of things, and I think we don't have any issue with their attention to detail and questions that they're asking are thoughtful, and they are taking the input from our operational staff and our manager of wastewater operations. So I think, yeah, the short answer is yes. We have it.
Bigger pumps don't work, so they never want to do the boat.
On that note, I really wish it was as simple as just larger pumps, but there is a finite amount of water you can push through any given pipe. Or like, yeah, we don't have room there.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cairns. I was just wondering, I look at the letter that was written by Tatham Engineering, and that's in January 2025, and then it relates the timelines and what specifically is going to be done over at least a 9-month period. So does that mean that if this is approved tonight, are we talking of timelines going into whatever November 2026? I'm just trying to get an idea here of what sort of timelines we're talking about.
Through your worship, so I did confirm the numbers, first of all, last week with them for bringing this to council. And I would suggest the timelines would remain very close to the same. It'll depend too on what sort of information we gather in the interim. That may shorten or extend the timeline slightly, but this type of work can take a year sometimes.
Councillor Gillespie, oh, you're fine? Okay. We're good? All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Gillespie, the council accept the 2024 annual report for the building department attached to Schedule A for information purposes. And we have our chief building official here, Mr. Vandermeer. You want to give an update on your report?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is the annual report that we've been returning with year over year. It's almost a little bit different in that there's a new process in place regarding EU recognition. So if you have any questions, I'm here.
Any questions? No, see, Councillor Warner?
I'm not sure if this is entirely on point, Mr. Vandermeer, but we've got a lot of building going very sound these days, more than the department. Is your department able to keep up with the events as currently constituted?
Thanks for your question, for your work of it. At the moment, we seem to be handling the volume okay. We are aware, when we're in the planning department, about some proposed developments that may come to fruition in the next year or two. So that is definitely something that is top of mind all the time to make sure that between everything else going on from the day-to-day activities that we're able to maintain a certain customer service level.
Thank you. Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. I have a question, and I don't know if it's for you or possibly Ms. Phillips. But in the report, it indicates that future incentive programs may be proposed to increase completion rates, which will increase and more accurately reflect the overall revenues recognized each year. And I'm just wondering how popular that is in other communities, and have examined or discussed what talking about for incentives?
I actually have some experience with that, working with another valley, but over the bunch of years that I've been doing this, I've done several analysis, across the board of valleys and even for many municipalities are actually doing this in several different variations. I have one in particular in mind that I employed with my time with the town or municipality of Google. Which yeah, you know, kind of a permanent fee deposit program where you get some fees up front, which get paid back upon completion of the permit. And it keeps the owners and the builders having this in mind to have this money back. Like I said, there's a few variations that we may consider based on analysis of other municipalities' programs that we could maybe combine with that and make something that's real for this township.
Thank you. I'm wondering how popular that this is throughout other municipalities. Any comment there that can be provided to?
Well, like I said, I know a lot of municipalities do this as far as popularity level of it. I can't really speculate on that. Although in the program that I had been using, it went over very.
My further question, and last one hopefully, is, Ms. Phillips, maybe you can just advise me from that report. It sounds like for the layperson to be reading that report, that later on, it's gonna take a few years before one can actually really look at it and say, oh, yes, there's revenues coming, just because it's a change in the accounting system.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So what's changed is that the revenue recognized is tied in with performance obligations, and what that means is many number of people are incentivized to finish up and close their permits. So there are some that are still not closed. So a refund program incentivizes people to finish things up. As if the permit's not fully closed, the department still has an obligation to follow up on them, can't leave it unresolved. So that's one way where we can ensure that revenues are recognized more promptly. Another way is to look at like a refund program, so we only have to track revenues as long as they're refundable for a certain portion sort of thing, based on our fees schedule and how we do that part. So if they're not, so in this case, we don't have to track them past beyond 2022 because those would never be refunded. So they're already recognized, but yes, so that's one of the reasons for that particular. But for budgeting, I think what we're planning to do is plan for the permits that we expect to come in and then estimate how much of those would be completed to become more accurate with the recognition of revenues in that way. Because they tie together, like how much work is completed and how many revenues you can recognize.
Thank you.
Further, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vandenberg. Okay, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Gillespie, whereas the various audible signal crossings have different indicators to inform a pedestrian to cross the street. And whereas the accessibility advisory committee is recommending that where possible, announcements be consistent throughout the town, including notification of what street the signal is for. Now therefore, staff be directed to investigate the possibility to make audible crossing signals more consistent in their announcement, audible noise, and where possible, have the street name announced And that a capital cost estimate be included in the 2026 budget. Any discussion?
I think that I can only add as a member of the committee is there was quite a discussion about that. And I think we're hoping that with this investigation, that therefore there will be a consistency in the needs audible signal crossings throughout our community. And as our community grows, that this will happen with as well as people being aware of what street it is that they're crossing, because there are times where people who have accessibility issues are not clear on which way they're crossing, and there has been examples where somebody kindly has grabbed a hold of somebody, evidently they'll cross in the wrong direction very quickly. So I think says that we as a community, we all care about all of us. So I think this could be helpful and appreciate if it can be investigated further.
Anything further? Let's move on.
Thank you, Word. Just a comment, I'd like to, thank the accessibility advisory committee on, moving on this quickly. We did get some feedback, early September at an event at CNIB. They come in and had a few concerns, so it's great that, we're able to move that quickly.
Anything further? All in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Pulaski, whereas some of the new equipment and parks areas cannot be accessed due to inaccessible entrances, making it difficult for individuals using strollers, wheelchairs, walkers, white canes, and other mobility devices to get into the park safely. Now therefore, staff be directed to investigate the possibility to make all local parks have accessible entrances, exits, so that any individual can utilize the newly erected accessible playground equipment, and the capital cost estimate be included in the 2026 budget. Discussion, Councillor Keith.
Yes, I think I would just add to that, just for information purposes, again, at the accessibility committee meeting, the concern is that, again, that all people want to be able to attend the park, whether it's these parks, whether it's as a spectator or as a participant. And therefore, it's really important that all areas and the entrances and exits easily allow this to happen. And I am certain that in examining this, and if down the road there is approval in a budget and a entrance or exit is being configured to allow this, I'm sure again that the members of the accessibility committee would be quite willing to attend when it's thought that maybe things are just about right, just to make any suggestions, so that down the road, when it hopefully does happen, that it just happens once and everybody's a happy camper, so to speak.
Anything further? All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Pulaski, where the waterfront master plan has identified the town's active trail system as having the ability to further connect service and community spaces. Whereas the riverfront area under and around Seaman Bridge has been identified by businesses and other stakeholders as problematic area, and resources are already being directed to that area. Whereas vehicular parking has been a continued issue in the community, whereas safety issues have been expressed by the public in these areas. Therefore, be resolved that an expansion of the riverfront fitness trail be investigated to connect to the BOCC And further be it resolved that an expansion of the fitness trail be investigated to connect to Big Sound Marina. And further that an accessible connection between Parry Sound Road and McFarland Street along with closed road allowance be investigated. Councillor Asher.
Thank you. So this comes from, a few of the different complaints and, questions and issues that, people brought forward to council in the last, few months. So it kind of ties into a few different things. It's certainly not going to solve everything. But it could maybe alleviate a little bit of stress on things. To have, our trail system expanded a little bit in order to get, finish getting to a couple. So the trail kind of goes up to the Stephen Bridge and peters out there. Same thing around the Stockton Center, peters out before it gets to our boardwalk at the marina. So trying to see if there's a feasible way to connect those a little bit further and make them a little bit more accessible, so folks can get around. More folks can use them and get that mindset. And last night it was pretty clear at the asset management open house there that was the number one request of the ratepayer in that survey is the haircut system. Become a priority for us. So I'm not saying that this is kind of stop I come back with some large numbers that are not feasible, but at the same time, we don't look into it. Thank you.
I guess my question with regard to the one with the OCC and the Sea River Bridge is, so we have a trail from the back of the curling club down to under the bridge. Okay, now mind you, Mr. Kearns is dealing with an invasive species, noxious and one in that particular area, which he's got to deal with. But are you talking about further beyond that towards the community center?
Yeah, the trail there, the path the path there now is overgrown and isn't wouldn't be crossable by as many Parry Sounders as we could use that. So it would be, and then it kind of empties into parking lot-ish area that's not super it's not super well defined on what you should do when you get to that point. In fact, it kind of looks like the kind of spot that if you were in a pinch and weren't near a public washroom, you might be able to sneak over there and use it, you know, so it kind of lends to a bit of an unattractive little spot. There's an old gate laying there that used to sure at some point block it off for some reason or another. So if we got that kind of tightened up a bit and got the trail to the point where, you know, the family wants to walk to the VOCC, whether it's, you know, anything from a little one pushing a stroller to grandma, or whatever, there'd be kind of a nice, easy defined path from that bridge all the way over.
So I think in everybody's minds, we're trying to grapple with what you were referring to with that. Now the other one with my question with the one at the Stockton Center and the trail down. I believe we should be defining that area because we use it for parking as well. So, you know, when there's large events at the Stockton Center, we need parking, so this is something for staff, and they're looking at this. We need to make sure we define the trail, but also parking as well within that, so that would be something you would be.
Yeah, definitely. I think all those things ought to be considered. Because we're kind of just a little bit short of making it all the way. And it could be just where there's a situation where we're drawing lines on the asphalt where it'd be best, or there's quite possibly a much more innovative solution than anything I've thought of. But yeah, the marina parking is there as well. So that hopefully that marina becomes quite a bit more popular in the future, so that would be something to kind of consider as well.
Mr. Kearns, do you have anything you want to?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention, about the gate, it is a necessary piece of infrastructure, that trail floods regularly when we have high water levels, so it actually is for pedestrian safety to exclude people from going underneath the bridge, because the water can get at point deep rails.
And you are dealing with that noxious weed. Council Border?
So this will be sent back to staff and they'll bring. And
Bring it up to that.
the recommendations be prioritized as to, what should be done quickest.
Sure. Yeah. Mr. Kearns is taking notes there, so. Yeah. Anything further on this one? No, all in favor then? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Barnum and seconded by Councilor McCann. The council of the town of Parry Sound is hereby endorsed the township fair with resolution 25163, which supports the request from the parent for Parry Sound and calls upon the Minister of Education and the Near North District School Board to 1. Provide a confirmed timeline and benchmark dates for the completion and occupancy of the new JK-12 Parry Sound School. 2, share public updates and findings from any investigations or reviews related to the project. 3, ensure transparency, communication, and accountability in all remaining stages of construction and school readiness. And further be it resolved, a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Paul Philander, Minister of Education, Near North District School Board, parents for Parry Sound, Muskoka MPP Graydon Smith, Parry Sound Muskoka MP Scott Aitchison, and the West Parry Sound Area Municipality. Discussion. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Councilor Bornman?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think I sent a response to this earlier. I'm wondering if we might not well be served to send a letter under your signature inviting chair of the school board and the director of education to come and make a public presentation to the people of Parry Sound in a controlled setting about where we're going with this. It probably isn't gonna be met with a lot of positive response, but these folks don't seem to be taking anything serious that comes out of our area at this point, so yeah, I'd like to offer them that opportunity at least.
Well, we can certainly try if council's in favor of that. Okay, show of hands there supporting that. We can certainly do that. Anything's worth a try right now.
Right on stamp.
Councilor McCann.
I know we've already voted on it, and but just in addition to what Councilor Warren has mentioned, and we brought this forward tonight because of the frustrations that the parents from Parry Sound were experiencing. We were brought up to date with the letter that they sent to Mayor and Council and the staff. I'm just wondering if it's worth it this time bringing up some of the comments that they made in the letter or the frustrations, and I'm not sure who might speak to that. Maybe,
Well, I'd want to make I think the letter, will the letter be on the website? Or as correspondence?
Yes.
So if anyone wants to view the letter on our website, it'll be there under correspondence of the meeting. So I think that's probably the place to do it. And it's their letter. So that would be the most appropriate thing to do.
well, that is a good idea. I think it's worth a good read.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Gillespie and seconded by Councilor Keith that the bylaw number 2025-7539 being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate the keeping of certain animals in the town of Parry Sound. Exotic animal regulations be considered as read the first time. All carried. Are all members in favor of having second and third readings? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Boleski, second by Councillor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Sorry, I was just gonna say, I had one question for Ms. Kruger. And that was, I noticed there were venomous snakes that were listed in the restriction. What about constrictive snakes of a certain size?
Through your worship, we did include venomous snakes as well as venomous reptiles within the prohibited list. We did not get into specifics for different types of snakes. There's a wide variety of regulations you can find in different municipalities that follow all sorts of different rules. At this time, because there are snakes that are kept as pets, of a certain, different varieties. We didn't put those restrictions on. Certainly, if that was something that came to be a concern, at this time we haven't had any concerns that have involved snakes. You could get into more detail. It would probably require some research sort of into exactly what you do want to prohibit and what you do want to allow, as snakes are considered a pet for many people of certain, obviously, not all snakes are appropriate, but some snakes are appropriate as pets.
Okay, all right. Councillor McCann, then Councillor Ashford.
So actually, I enjoyed reading this because I didn't realize how many animals there could be that would be prohibited and what you could have. But this is just a light comment and a question from Ms. Kruger. I noticed that ducks are on the prohibited list, and I'm just wondering if a resident had a big enough property that they had a man-made pond. Sometimes ducks will find such a place and sort of turn it into their home. In a situation like that, what would the town do? Is it basically, are they in breach of the bylaw?
Through your worship, ducks that showed up there are wild ducks. If you're not keeping them in captivity, they're simply using the property. They're free to come and go. That would not be considered the keeping of wildlife. Keeping of wildlife is also prohibited by some provincial regulations, although we do include it in this list as well, so that we have tools to address it. If individuals were bringing in and maintaining these as pets, then they potentially would be in breach of this bylaw, or similarly if they were to purchase domestic ducks. Now, of course, there is the exemptions within the bylaw for properties that have appropriate zoning for farm animals to be able to keep ducks, but a residential property, for instance, would not be able to keep ducks that they have either purchased or are holding in captivity, like a wild species being kept in captivity. So that would be a violation. Ducks showing up would be okay.
Okay, well that makes sense. So if you were feeding them, that wouldn't put you on the wrong side of the law then.
You ever want to see ducks? There's lots of them in my backyard. And I'm not keeping them.
Now we know what you do with your stale bread.
No, I don't do that. I don't encourage them. Who is next? Oh, Councillor Ashford. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think this is such an important bylaw. I know I mentioned the television series Chimp Crazy, and the different things that can happen. It can be pretty terrible. So for people. So to kind of get this bylaw in place, it's a pretty great thing for us. But I did have one concern, and I think around, there might be an exemption that I missed, but around falconry. And it's a kind of a popular, or not so popular, but a long-standing Canadian pastime to keep falcons and hawks and even owls for the purpose of hunting. And there's certainly a license and a pretty strict regulatory system to manage this. So if you want to, you can't just apply for this license. You can't just take a course. You got to be like mentored, and there's a whole big kind of process around that. And I've gone hunting with hawks before. I wasn't trusted with a falcon because they're a little bit moody, but a hawk was fine with me, and it was quite an enjoyable experience. So I just I don't know, like in a certain sense we're an urban municipality, but at the same time, this is already heavily regulated. Do we could an exemption be, or it could an exemption be in place for someone who is a registered falconeer who uses the bird, keeps the birds for hunting purposes?
Through your worship, I believe the exemptions that allows for like premises that hold a license under any other statute of the province or of the country would probably apply in those cases. So we did try to make sure that we were not being prohibited, prohibiting uses such as that would be considered appropriate uses. Although they are included in the list, that would be for people that are not keeping them under a proper license and following all those regulations.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. My query, unless I've missed it in reading this, where does a boa constrictor lie in this list? Because it's not venomous, except that I know I certainly would think that it should be on the list. So I'm wondering about that.
That's why I asked about the constrictive snakes of a certain size.
Through your worship, we did include, as I said, the venomous snakes. We did not include the constrictors at this time. That is something we could definitely take into consideration. Again, there's sort of a variety of regulations out there. Some include that, some don't. Some have a size restriction, some don't, some allow. Constrictors are sort of generally considered a pet snake commonly. Obviously, not every person is keeping them necessarily the same, but constrictors are something that many people do own as a snake currently. So they were not included in the list at this time.
Yes, I'm asking that this matter be deferred because I certainly think that this should be examined and put on the list. We create a bylaw to make sure that certain things, at least we're doing our best to present it. So when we're having a brand new bylaw come into play, and this is a question that's being asked, I think we should follow through and get it all on the list at the time.
You're moving that it be
Moving that it be deferred. Yes, I'm moving it be deferred.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor McCann? Okay, there's no questions around that, so all in favor of deferring it? Okay, that's carried. It'll be coming back. So it'll be postponed until next meeting? Is that good?
However long it takes Miss Kruger to do her
Okay.
work.
Councillor McCann?
Yeah, I guess maybe a point of order, because what I was just going to ask whether the bylaw speaks to a number of dogs or cats or allowable animals or pets that you could have in a place of residence. Is that something that's in place now, or is that something that we might add to this bylaw as well?
I think they've heard you because we've kind of, the bylaw is postponed, but I have Chief Thompson that wants to say something.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think staff are getting a little bit of direction because what we heard was a deferral.
Well,
and
sorry.
a postponement would be, something, a little bit different, but we have no direction on what council wants.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is the direction would be, and it's postponed until we get this come back, okay? To come back, so it'd be constrictive type snakes, Okay. And I think the number of, well, these are exotic animals, Counselor McCann, so this has nothing to do with regular animals. Okay, but I think it revolves around constrictor type snakes, maybe size or whatever, that sort of thing. But I think the other thing that needs to be in that as well is if someone releases one because they get to a certain size. And that's happening in other places and causing problems. So I think we need to be cognizant of that situation. Does that clarify things, Chief?
Maybe Ms. Kruger may want to weigh in on
Yeah.
more direction or not. With what's been said, I believe we're simply going to go away and include constrictors. Maybe Ms. Kruger can put some thought into releasing. I'm not sure how that falls into the grand scheme of things, but then it's going to come back with those changes. Is
Yeah.
that what council's asking for?
Yes. Yeah. Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. Could we not put through what's requested now and then add to it after? If we wanted to add anything else to the list?
Well, I think if we're going to have the discussion around, or the knowledge around a release and what happens in a situation like that, that might mean that might have to come back because there'd be more information needed. Chief, that my understanding?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is, I guess, what I was trying to get to is that Ms. Kruger and I are happy to make amendments if we know what council's after. And it appears to us as if we're after the removal of constrictors or the inclusion of constrictors. This doesn't surprise either of us because we debated this extensively before this came forward to you, wondering about this particular issue. So I think what we're hearing is that you want the inclusion of constrictors. Ms. Kruger can also do some exploring on the release aspect of things. I don't know exactly what the implications of that are. I think that might be a little bit of a bigger issue. But she can most definitely bring that information back as well. I would think it would be good to allow us to go back and make the amendments rather than try to do it on the fly. I don't believe this is such a pressing issue that it needs to be done on the fly where we might make a mistake. And that allows Ms. Kruger time to explore those issues and ensure that there are no unintended consequences as well.
Yeah, because the majority of snakes are constrictors. Okay, I would imagine. But once they get to a certain size, then things become an issue, I believe. So that's when people find that they're too large, and in other places, they've just let them go. And that's dangerous. Yeah, Chief, and then
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe our approach would be a complete ban on constrictors then. I believe if we were just to worry about the size of them, that could create problems where someone becomes attached to their pet. And then it's much harder to have it removed at that time. I suspect when we discuss it, that it's going to be, we would suggest including it on the types of animals that are not allowed.
Right, okay, all right. Councillor Bileski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one, and I hadn't noticed it when reading this yesterday, but racing pigeons, are they outlawed or included? Are they within the bylaw or? Because they can have maybe up to 12, 14 pigeons in a pen. The racing ones.
Through your worship, pigeons are not on our prohibited list. Although I'm not familiar with anybody specifically at this time in town that has racing pigeons, we did leave them outside of the prohibited list, as some people do keep them obviously and use them for that purpose, and are typically involved in reputable like clubs for that purpose.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor McCann, and then we should wrap this up because we're just giving direction to staff on what we want brought back.
So I think I'm okay, but I was just going to say that if we were if there was a total ban on constrictors, it would seem to negate the need to discuss some sort of a release program, don't you think?
Maybe not.
Through your worship, I can perhaps offer a little bit of clarification on that point. Obviously, the list of prohibited animals is saying that we are not permitting anybody to own these types of animals. We all know that may not stop somebody that already has them or brings one in from letting them go. Given that we are not set up to care for, you know, a lion or a boa constrictor or many of these other interesting species, you know, if we were to encounter one of those scenarios, we would have to deal with outside agencies to appropriately address it. Again, it's all going to depend on what is being released, but I have been in places where there has been tigers or alligators or different species that have been let go or gotten out. And so typically we sort of need to address those individually. And you need to work with other agencies just because of the nature of the animal. And it really depends on what the animal is. So, you know, the prohibition addresses what the fact that they shouldn't own them. And then, you know, if there's a scenario, those are typically dealt with at that time, depending on what we're dealing with.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, great. Staff got a good idea now what's coming back? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2025-7540 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement, Dell Canada to continue provisioning end user computer devices on an as and when required basis be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings, and that's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor Borneman.
Well, we're not often graced by Mr. Belchamber's presence.
That's right, he's here.
So I'm wondering if he would step up and tell the public what we're up to here, please.
More than happy to. Through the mayor, perhaps a chronological story would make the most sense. In 2017, Dell Canada was amongst a variety of companies that bid through a competitive bidding process to secure a contract with the OECM, the Ontario Education Collaborative Marketplace. The OECM allows any organization in the MUSH sector, that being municipal, universities, schools, and hospitals, to maximize a volume discount. Rather than the town bidding individually, you're having a huge variety of companies bidding kind of all together at once. So that happened in 2017. Come COVID, the town's IT realizes, hey, our fleet is the vast majority desktops. That's changed. The way we compute, the way we use technology is changing, and laptops are really a more effective way of doing business these days. It was hard to make that change because we didn't have a standardized way of doing that. We didn't have an agreement with any one company. Every year we were going out and researching things one at a time. That's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it de-standardizes the fleet, which makes it more difficult to adequately maintain. So in December 2022, the town entered into agreement with Dell Canada through OECM to get these services at a much bigger discount than if the town was to try to do it itself. That has been wrapped into a 4-year replacement cycle, which is also an improvement and a modernization upon what the town used to do with a 5-year replacement cycle. We've just finished year 3 of this 4-year cycle with Dell Canada, and that means we're 75% of the way through making things better. And it's made a big impact through standardization, through combining different device types into one piece of hardware, and through allowing staff to potentially, if something is wrong, receive another device of the same type so that things aren't confusing. So on the whole, it's been very, very good to have this relationship with Dell Canada to get end user computing resources at volume discounts. So what's before you is the new agreement. The OECM agreement from 2017 expired. Another um, another chance for companies to bid came up. Dell is once again a diamond supporter, so they were a big winner alongside other companies like Lenovo and HPE. And staff's recommendation is to sign this agreement to allow us to continue completing the 4th year of our replacement cycle and continue on into the future. The real big benefit here is that it doesn't require us to purchase solely from Dell. If we want to, the town can still go ahead and purchase things through other providers. The town could also enter into other OECM agreements with other manufacturers to receive the same types of equipment. We're not beholden to one provider.
Thank you. Councillor McCann.
Thank you for that report. I'm a big Dell fan, so have my support. I was just wondering, and going through the list of products and services that are provided under this agreement, it's massive. In terms of life cycles of desktops and laptops and such, do we have some sort of a program whereby after 3 or 5 or 6 years that this hardware goes back to Dell and is upgraded with new hardware, or do we dispose of the older hardware on an open market somewhat? What happens to the older equipment?
Sure. Through the mayor, there are 2 main things that we do with older equipment after that 4-year lifespan. The first one is one of the most important, and that's to shift those devices from the active in-use fleet to a standby loaner fleet. These are devices that still potentially have about a year left of hardware juice left in them. They're at the end, they're no longer under warranty, but they might still be of use. We've used this loaner fleet to deploy a device to new positions that start up near the end of the year when we're surprised and still need to provide a device. We've used these devices to help when a group of people, a group of new staff need to be trained all at the same time. Being able to deploy this loaner fleet to support these ad hoc needs has been very useful, and that's what the majority of our old hardware goes to. Once you get into the 6-year and 7-year brackets, you start to get hardware that fails. And so typically we'll e-waste those once they no longer operate. We kind of use what we have until they die. We try to squeeze as much as we can out of them. The e-waste program is provided at the town's transfer station. And I want to say about 5 years ago, the town's IT staff were able to take a field trip to the company that takes that e-waste bin and converts it into little pellets of metal powder and recycles it responsibly. So it's good to know that after devices are fully used to their greatest extent, they're going to a manufacturing plant that tears those down in a responsible way to extract, again, as many of the raw materials as you can get out of them.
Hey, thanks very much.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 comments. So this contract, what I just heard a minute ago, is really just for a year more? Is that clear? Is that the question or comment?
No, this through the mayor, this agreement will last for another 7 or 8 years, I believe, with OECM. The town's 4-year replacement cycle plan was pre-planned back in 2022. And so we're just entering into year 4 come 2026. So it would be very useful to continue along with that pre-planned replacement cycle.
So then that explains why when I read the fine print, it said about the CSA going to January 31st, 2033. So I'm on target then for that.
Absolutely.
And that's how long actually the contract could possibly go to.
Correct.
Right?
The town stepped into an existing OECM contract in 2022, which is why we're renewing it after only 3 years rather than that full 8 years that you see.
Thank you.
Anything further? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Belchamber. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McCann, that bylaw number 2025-7541, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. So, prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, November the 4th at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Seguin Street, entrance via Gibson Street, and will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. And go Jays go. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.